We are told that we should be kind, that we should put others first, help without hesitation, and always say yes. But does anyone ever tell you what it really costs to live that way? We live in a world where giving doesn't always come back, where kindness isn't always returned, and sometimes it's punished. Have you ever wondered why the more you give, the more invisible you feel? Why the people you help most are the ones who disappear when you need them the most? The truth is, being too kind, without boundaries, without balance, can quietly ruin your peace, your purpose, even your identity. The Stoics understood this long ago. They didn't teach us to become cold, they taught us to become wise, to act with virtue but not attachment, to help but not at the cost of our own soul. So in this video, we're diving into the 8 hidden ways being too nice can actually hurt you, and more importantly, how to shift from people-pleasing to powerful, from drained to disciplined. This isn't about becoming selfish, it's about becoming sovereign. And if you're on a journey to reclaim your time, your strength, and your inner calm, please subscribe. For you, because every step toward wisdom is a step toward freedom. 1. You'll have unrealistic expectations of others. We all want to help others. It's natural to want to give and be there for the people we care about. But sometimes, in the process of giving, we set ourselves up for frustration. It's easy to slip into the belief that if we give enough of ourselves, our time, our energy, our support, others will naturally return the favor. We start to expect that the same effort and care we pour out will be mirrored back to us. But here's the reality check. People aren't always aware of your needs. They don't always know how much you're sacrificing, and unfortunately, most of the time, they don't give back as you might hope. This isn't because people are necessarily bad, but simply because they are focused on their own lives, their own struggles, and their own needs. When we give too much, we often set ourselves up for disappointment. It's easy to feel let down when others don't match your level of giving. The Stoics, particularly Marcus Aurelius, remind us that the only control we truly have is over ourselves, how we react to situations, how we view others, and how we handle our expectations. Waste no more time arguing about what a good man should be. Be one, Marcus wrote. This can be applied to kindness and generosity. The Stoic ideal isn't about expecting something in return for your actions, but about acting out of virtue and duty, without the need for external validation. When you expect too much from others, you're setting yourself up for disappointment because you're tethering your emotional well-being to the actions of others. Instead, practice emotional detachment. Let go of the idea that others must act a certain way for you to feel fulfilled. Accept people for who they are and give with no expectation of reciprocity. By doing so, you'll not only avoid frustration, but you'll also find a more sustainable, peaceful way to help others. Carl Jung once said, "The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are. This is key when it comes to balancing kindness with self-care. In your pursuit of helping others, you must not lose sight of who you are and what you need." If you're constantly giving to others and yet neglecting your own emotional health, it can lead to burnout. To help others effectively, you first have to make sure that you are in a place where you can give without depleting yourself. Self-care isn't selfish, it's essential. Without it, you're just offering an empty cup to others. To be the best version of yourself for others, you must fill your own cup first. You can't give what you don't have. This is why taking time for yourself, setting boundaries, and practicing emotional detachment are so important. Another key point to remember is that kindness is not about being a martyr, it's about balance. Giving too much can make you feel like you're being taken for granted, and eventually that leads to resentment. That's where boundaries come in. Boundaries are like the lines on a map. They keep you on track and ensure that you don't lose yourself in the process of helping others. The Stoics weren't afraid to set boundaries. Epictetus, for instance, emphasized the importance of setting clear, practical limits on what we give to others. If you want to help others, you need to help yourself first. If you constantly ignore your own needs for the sake of others, you'll find yourself depleted, irritable, and disconnected from your own life. The Stoics would tell you that this is not a healthy or sustainable way to live. Psychologically, when we expect too much from others, it's often because we're not being honest with ourselves about our own emotional needs. We are projecting our unspoken desires onto others, hoping they will fulfill them. This can lead to feelings of frustration when those expectations aren't met. We're setting up an illusion that others must come through for us, and when they don't, we feel hurt, betrayed, or neglected. The key here is to be honest with yourself and recognize that you are the one responsible for your emotional well-being. You must learn to meet your own needs before you can effectively meet others. As Carl Jung said, the most terrifying thing is to accept oneself completely. Part of this acceptance is recognizing when you need help and when you need to stand strong on your own. You can't expect people to fill a void that only you can address. Learning to manage your expectations of others is an empowering practice. It shifts the focus from relying on external validation to finding peace within yourself. If you constantly expect others to make you happy, you'll never find true happiness because happiness is always out of your control. The Stoics believed that joy and peace come from within, not from external sources. In fact, the Stoics advised against depending on others for happiness. Instead, you should focus on what you can control: your thoughts, your actions, your emotional responses. By practicing emotional detachment and focusing on what's in your control, you'll find that you can give without expectations and still feel fulfilled. This is a profound form of freedom, one that the Stoics embraced deeply. So, next time you feel frustrated because someone hasn't reciprocated your kindness, remember, it's not about what others do, it's about how you respond to it. Adjust your expectations, focus on your own growth, and give without expecting anything in return. This will not only protect you from unnecessary emotional distress, but it will also allow you to help others in a way that is truly sustainable. As you continue to develop this practice, you'll find that your relationships become healthier, your sense of self stronger, and your emotional well-being more grounded. By giving to others without strings attached, you'll discover that the real gift is in the giving itself and in the freedom it brings. 2. People will start taking you for granted. Have you ever found yourself constantly being the go-to person for everyone around you? You're always there when someone needs help, whether it's a friend, a family member, or a colleague. It feels good at first, right? You feel like you're making a difference, like you're the one people can count on. But here's the thing, the more you help, the more people start to expect it. At first, they might appreciate it, but eventually, it becomes normal. They start to take your kindness for granted. You give so much of yourself, and at some point, you might even feel like they owe you. But guess what? That feeling doesn't last. People don't always see your effort for what it is. Instead, they start to expect it from you, and before you know it, your efforts are no longer special, just expected. This is where the real danger lies. When you keep giving and giving without setting any boundaries, it's easy to lose yourself in the process. People become accustomed to you being there to pick up the slack, to handle the difficult situations, and to solve their problems. They start to take more and more without thinking about how much you're actually giving. And here's the kicker. You'll feel used. You'll feel like you've poured everything you've got into helping others, and they're still coming back for more. This pattern, if left unchecked, can leave you drained, resentful, and ultimately empty. The Stoics had a word for this: moderation. They believed in balance. Giving is great, but only if it doesn't come at the cost of your own well-being. Moderation is key. You can help others, but you also need to protect your own boundaries and ensure that you don't lose yourself in the process. When you constantly give without setting limits, you end up becoming the person who others rely on without offering much in return. You might start to feel like you don't even know who you are anymore. You lose your sense of self as you give so much to others. Helping others should never come at the cost of losing yourself. Epictetus emphasized that we cannot control others' actions, but we can control how we respond to them. In the same way, we have control over how much we choose to give. By setting boundaries, we protect our sense of identity and ensure that we are not taken for granted. When people stop appreciating what you're doing for them, it's because they've become too comfortable. They don't realize the effort you put in. They just expect it. It's like when someone borrows your car all the time without saying thank you. They expect you to keep offering it. But when the time comes for you to ask for something in return, suddenly they're too busy or don't have time. This isn't just frustrating. It can lead to feelings of bitterness and resentment. You've probably been there before, thinking, "I've helped them 1,000 times, but when I need something, where are they?" And that's the problem with expecting others to always reciprocate. They might not even know what you need, or they might not realize that you've given more than you can handle. That's why it's crucial to start setting clear expectations and boundaries. This is where the Stoic idea of emotional detachment comes into play. The Stoics taught that we should never place our emotional well-being in the hands of others. By doing so, we lose control over our own happiness. Instead, we should focus on what we can control: our own actions, responses, and boundaries. If you don't start setting limits, you risk becoming a doormat, constantly giving without receiving. It's essential to recognize that giving should not deplete you. In fact, it should come from a place of abundance, not from a sense of obligation. You should never give to the point where you have nothing left for yourself. You're allowed to say no. You're allowed to take a step back and make sure your needs are being met too. As we give to others, it's easy to slip into the habit of expecting them to show the same level of care. But as Seneca pointed out, he who is brave is free. And part of being brave is recognizing when you're being taken for granted. It's about having the courage to set boundaries, to say no when necessary, and to take care of yourself without guilt. There's nothing wrong with taking a break from being everyone's problem solver. In fact, by doing so, you actually improve your ability to help others in the long run. Giving becomes a choice, not an obligation, and that's where true fulfillment comes from. You can't pour from an empty cup, as the saying goes. People might get used to your kindness, but that doesn't mean you have to allow it. You are not obligated to sacrifice yourself for others' comfort. There's a difference between helping and overextending yourself. By practicing Stoic principles like moderation, self-discipline, and detachment, you can find a balance where you give freely, but never at the cost of your own peace. Remember, kindness is a virtue, but without boundaries it can quickly turn into a burden. The real power lies in knowing when to step back, knowing when to say no, and understanding that your needs are just as important as those of the people you're helping. In the end, helping others is not about being a martyr, but about finding a healthy balance that allows you to continue giving without losing yourself. So take a step back. Set those boundaries. Don't let your kindness become something that people take for granted. And most importantly, remember that your value doesn't come from how much you give to others. It comes from knowing who you are and maintaining respect for yourself. 3. Your own goals will get lost in the shuffle. How many times have you found yourself stuck in the middle of someone else's problems, forgetting about your own plans and goals? It's easy to get caught up in helping others, especially when you care about them. You might think that by giving so much of your time and energy to others, you're being selfless and noble. But here's the reality check. When you prioritize everyone else's needs, you stop making your own a priority. Over time, this pattern takes a toll on your own dreams, and before you know it, your personal goals are nowhere to be found. It's like putting your life on pause while everyone else's movie keeps playing, and that's a trap many of us fall into. The truth is, you might feel good in the moment by being there for others, but deep down, you know you're putting your own aspirations on the back burner. We've all done it. Cancelled plans, put off projects, or delayed pursuing something important to us because someone else needed help. It's a dangerous habit because it's easy to justify. You tell yourself, I'll get to my stuff later. Right now they need me. And sure, helping others is important, but you can't continually put your own goals on hold without losing a part of yourself. The Stoics, like Seneca, believe that we must balance our obligations. You can help others, but you must also help yourself by setting boundaries. Seneca put it bluntly, "It is not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste a lot of it." When you give up your time to everyone else, you're wasting your time, and with it, your chance to achieve your own personal goals. There's a certain irony in this. You might think you're being selfless, but in reality, you're avoiding something deeper. Think about it for a second. What is it that you're not facing by helping everyone else? Often, we focus on other people's needs because it feels easier than confronting our own fears, insecurities, or the tough work of chasing our dreams. Carl Jung once said, "The most terrifying thing is to accept oneself completely." And that's what happens when we avoid our own goals. We're afraid of facing the uncomfortable truths about our own desires and challenges. But when you constantly put others first, you end up sidelining your own aspirations, and before you know it, your own life starts to feel out of your control. Here's something important to remember. Your goals and dreams matter just as much as anyone else's. The Stoic philosophers understood the importance of self-discipline and inner balance. They didn't believe in running after every demand made on them because they knew that a lack of focus on one's own purpose leads to frustration and loss of direction. You're allowed to say no to others in order to prioritize your own dreams. Helping others doesn't have to come at the expense of your own goals, but it's easy to lose sight of that balance if you're not careful. Think of your goals as a compass that helps guide you through life. If you keep putting it down to help others, you'll find yourself drifting aimlessly without any sense of direction. Jung also spoke about the importance of integrating different aspects of ourselves to live fully. Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. This applies to your goals too. If you keep ignoring your own dreams, you're essentially letting them sit in your unconscious. They'll keep bubbling up, demanding attention, until eventually they can't be ignored anymore. And if you've been putting them off for too long, it might feel like an avalanche. The point is, the longer you suppress your goals, the harder it will be to face them later on. You have to give yourself permission to prioritize your own goals. It's not selfish, it's necessary. By focusing on your own path, you not only achieve your own success, but you also improve your ability to help others. After all, you can't give from an empty cup. By putting your own life first and setting those boundaries, you become a better version of yourself, one that can contribute to others without feeling drained or resentful. You'll feel more grounded, more fulfilled, and more at peace with yourself. The Stoics believed that a clear mind and a focused heart were the keys to a life of virtue and success. By making sure your own goals are front and center, you give yourself the opportunity to live with intention and purpose. So how do you stop losing your goals in the shuffle? The first step is simple. Start saying no when you need to. Say no to the requests that aren't aligned with your personal goals. Say no to the constant demands that keep pulling you away from your own dreams. It might feel uncomfortable at first. You might feel guilty, but that's just your old habits trying to hold on. As the Stoic philosopher Epictetus wisely said, "Wealth consists not in having great possessions, but in having few wants." You don't need to be everything to everyone. By saying no, you are clearing the space for yourself to say yes to what truly matters. The next step is to take action on your goals, even if it's just a small step every day. Write down your dreams, plan them out, and start working on them bit by bit. It doesn't matter how small the steps are. What matters is that you're moving forward. The Stoics believed in the power of consistent, small actions. "What we do now echoes in eternity," said Marcus Aurelius. "Every action, no matter how small, is a step towards fulfilling your true purpose." Don't let the needs of others constantly derail you from your own track. You have every right to pursue your dreams and goals. They are yours to achieve. In the end, the most important thing is to remember that your life matters, your goals matter, and by putting yourself first, you will be in a much better position to help others, not because you're sacrificing your happiness, but because you're thriving. By achieving your own goals, you'll find that you have more to give and a clearer sense of purpose to share with the world. So, stop losing your goals in the shuffle of other people's lives. It's time to take charge of your own journey. 4. People will think you're weak. We've all been there, being the person who's always there for others, always saying yes, always offering a helping hand. It feels good, doesn't it? You want to be helpful, kind, and supportive. But here's the reality. Kindness doesn't always get the respect it deserves. In fact, sometimes people see it as a weakness. They start to take advantage of you, assuming you'll always be there, that you'll always help out, and that you'll always say yes. It's like being the go-to person in the group. People come to you when they need something, but when it's your turn to ask for help, they're nowhere to be found. It's frustrating, and honestly, it's draining. And here's the kicker. The more you give, the more people expect. The Stoics understood this dynamic better than most. They didn't teach us to give without thinking. Giving isn't about saying yes to everything and everyone. The Stoic philosophers like Marcus Aurelius and Epictetus emphasized the importance of setting limits, knowing when to say no and when to step back. They understood that true strength doesn't lie in constantly serving others or pleasing everyone around you. It lies in having the courage to stand firm, to know your worth, and to be able to say no when necessary. Respect doesn't come from people-pleasing. It comes from self-respect. If you keep saying yes to everything, people will only start to see you as someone they can push around, not someone they can truly respect. As Epictetus said, freedom is the only worthy goal in life. It is won by disregarding things that lie beyond our control. By setting boundaries and standing your ground, you take control of your own life, and in turn, you earn respect. Now, I know what you're thinking, but I don't want to be seen as rude or harsh. And that's fair. You don't have to be harsh. Setting boundaries doesn't mean being mean or dismissive. It simply means protecting your own well-being. It means recognizing that you're allowed to prioritize your own needs without feeling guilty. You don't have to drop everything to please others, and you don't have to say yes to everything just to be liked. As Carl Jung wisely put it, the privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are. When you stop trying to please everyone around you, you start to discover who you really are and what you truly want. Saying no can actually empower you. It can help you stand tall, draw a clear line, and show others that you value yourself enough to protect your time and energy. This is the kind of strength that people respect. The problem with being overly kind and always available is that it often leaves you feeling like a doormat. You're constantly giving, constantly helping, but in return, you feel drained, unappreciated, and sometimes even resentful. The Stoics warned against this kind of self-sacrifice without purpose. They believed in giving out of a place of inner strength, not out of obligation or fear of rejection. When you give too much, you risk losing your own identity. You might start to feel like you don't have a say in your own life anymore, and that's where things start to go wrong. Your time, your energy, and your well-being matter just as much as anyone else's. If you're constantly bending to the will of others, you lose sight of your own needs and goals. The Stoics taught us to act according to our values, not because it's expected or because it will make others like us. Giving should be a conscious choice, not an automatic response. Think about it. Have you ever felt like people only come to you when they need something, and when you need help, they're nowhere to be found? That's because you've become too easy to take advantage of. People get used to your kindness and start to expect it, not because they appreciate you, but because it's convenient for them. This is where boundaries come in. When you start saying no, people will start to realize that you have standards. You have a life outside of being there for them, and most importantly, you have respect for yourself. Saying no is not about being difficult or unkind. It's about showing that you're in control of your own time and energy. It's about saying, I have my own needs too, and I'm not going to sacrifice them just to make you happy. As Marcus Aurelius said, waste no more time arguing about what a good man should be. Expecting your kindness because they'll start to expect it. And when you become an expectation, you lose your value. The Stoics didn't give us a set of rules just to be followed blindly. They wanted us to find balance. They wanted us to live according to our true nature, not to the demands of others. They believed in giving out of strength, not out of weakness. And that's the lesson here. True strength lies in knowing when to say no, in standing firm in your own values, and in protecting your time and energy from being drained by others. You don't have to be harsh, but you do have to be strong enough to draw a line. You don't have to be everything to everyone, and you shouldn't feel guilty for choosing to be yourself. So, next time you feel pressured to say yes, or when you feel like your kindness is being taken for granted, ask yourself, am I being kind to myself first? Am I protecting my peace and my time? Or am I just giving to meet someone else's needs while neglecting my own? Take control. Set your boundaries. You'll find that people respect you more when you respect yourself first. 5. You'll attract energy vampires. Have you ever had someone in your life who just seems to drain you every time you interact with them? You know the type, the ones who always need something from you, whether it's your time, your energy, or your resources. At first, you don't mind helping out. After all, we all need support sometimes. But over time, you start to notice something unsettling. The more you give, the more they take. They don't offer anything in return, and before long, you're left feeling empty, exhausted, and resentful. It's like they've latched onto your energy, and you're left with nothing. If you've experienced this, you know how frustrating it can be. These people, often referred to as energy vampires, seem to be experts at draining you without ever considering your needs. Now, here's a hard truth. The more you give, the more you attract these kinds of people. It's almost like a law of nature. If you're always available, always giving, always helping, you're going to attract people who see that as an opportunity to take without giving anything in return. It's a cycle that's difficult to break, and it can quickly leave you feeling used and unappreciated. The more you bend over backward for others, the more you'll find yourself surrounded by people who are only interested in what you can offer them without any genuine care for your well-being. It's a pattern that can eat away at your energy, your time, and your mental health. And before you know it, you're trapped in a relationship dynamic where you're always the one giving but never receiving. The Stoics understood the importance of self-discipline and discernment when it comes to our relationships. They didn't believe in letting everyone into our inner circle. True self-control isn't just about managing your own actions and thoughts. It's also about managing who you allow into your life. Seneca once said, "We suffer more often in imagination than in reality." In other words, the fear of losing something, like our time, energy, or peace, can often cause us more stress than the actual loss itself. When we allow ourselves to be drained by others, it's not just about what we're giving away, it's about the emotional toll it takes on us. By allowing energy vampires into our lives, we invite unnecessary suffering. The key to protecting yourself from these emotional leeches is setting boundaries. The Stoics would advise you to be very careful about who you let into your personal space and how much you allow them to take. They weren't against helping others, but they were strong advocates for being mindful about where you invest your time and energy. It's easy to get caught up in the idea of always being there for people, but the truth is, you can't help anyone effectively if you're running on empty. It's important to understand that energy vampires aren't always easy to spot at first. They can be charming, likable, and even seem genuinely in need. But over time, you'll begin to notice that they only reach out when they need something. They never ask about your day or offer help in return. They're there when it's convenient for them, but when you need support, they're nowhere to be found. The hardest part is recognizing that these people aren't going to change. The more you give, the more they'll take, and the emptier you'll feel. The Stoics didn't mince words about this. They believed that we are responsible for the relationships we cultivate. We are the gatekeepers of our energy. You don't have to let anyone into your life who isn't contributing positively to it. And by doing so, you'll be protecting your mental and emotional well-being. Recognizing energy vampires is only half the battle. The other part is learning how to say no. It's a simple word, but it's incredibly powerful. Saying no doesn't make you a bad person. It doesn't mean you don't care about others. It simply means that you are taking control of your own life. You are choosing to protect your peace and your energy. And let's be honest, there's no shortage of people who will try to take advantage of your kindness. But as the Stoics taught us, we don't have to let people walk all over us. We can choose where to place our energy and time. By learning to say no, you're asserting that your well-being is important and that you are worthy of respect. The more you practice setting boundaries, the easier it becomes to spot energy vampires and distance yourself from them. And when you do this, you'll begin to feel lighter, more at peace, and more in control of your own life. By removing toxic people from your life, you make room for healthier, more fulfilling relationships, ones that nurture and support you rather than drain you. Protecting your peace is not just about avoiding negative people. It's also about creating an environment where you can thrive. Recognizing and removing energy vampires is part of the process of reclaiming your time, your focus, and your emotional energy. Once you've learned to guard your peace, you'll discover that your relationships become more genuine, your energy becomes more abundant, and you're able to offer support to others in a way that's sustainable. So, take control of your life, protect your energy, and remember, you deserve relationships that lift you up, not ones that drain you. 6. You'll end up feeling used. Have you ever felt like you're the one doing all the work while others seem to effortlessly take a step back? You're the one who steps up when something needs to be done, the one who gives and gives without hesitation. But when it's your turn to ask for help, suddenly everyone is too busy. It's frustrating, isn't it? And it's not just about the tasks or favors, it's about how it makes you feel. Over time, you start to realize that you're giving more than you're receiving, and it feels like no one is truly there for you when you need them. You begin to feel used. This happens when your kindness turns into an unspoken expectation. When you're always available, always lending a hand, others begin to assume you'll always be there. And while giving is a good thing, when it's done without any boundaries, it can quickly become an unhealthy dynamic. Without limits, people don't see your acts of kindness as something you're choosing to do. They see it as something they can rely on, no matter the cost to you. And the problem is that when you start to feel like you're the one doing all the lifting and others are simply coasting, that's when it starts to wear you down. Kindness without boundaries becomes a one-way street. You're giving, but you're not receiving anything in return. This pattern of feeling used often stems from a lack of clear boundaries. Without boundaries, people will continue to take from you, and eventually you'll feel depleted and resentful. The Stoics taught us to be deliberate in our actions. They didn't believe in being generous just because it was expected or out of some misguided sense of obligation. They understood that if we give without consideration, we risk losing ourselves in the process. As Marcus Aurelius said, "You have power over your mind, not outside events." Realize this, and you will find strength. Setting boundaries is about taking back control. It's about saying, "I will give, but only on my terms, in a way that respects both me and the person I'm helping." When you're constantly helping others but never asking for help in return, it creates an imbalance. It's easy to fall into the trap of thinking you have to do it all yourself, that you have to be the strong one, the one who carries everyone's burdens. But in doing so, you're ignoring your own needs, and that's when you start to feel like a doormat. Think about it. How many times have you put off your own needs for the sake of others? Maybe you've been there, staying late to help a friend with something, only to find that when you're in need, that same friend isn't there for you. It's like being stuck in a relationship where you give everything and they take everything, leaving you with nothing but a sense of being drained. The reality is, people are creatures of habit. Once they see you as the one who always steps in, they begin to expect it. It's not out of malice. It's just how the dynamic works. They get comfortable with you always being there, and it can create a cycle where you feel like you can never step back. But this is where the Stoic idea of self-discipline becomes so important. Epictetus reminds us that freedom is the only worthy goal in life. It is won by disregarding things that lie beyond our control. The key to breaking the cycle of feeling used is to take control of what you can, your time, your energy, and your boundaries. You don't have to give more than you're willing to give, and it's okay to say no. Saying no might feel uncomfortable at first, but it's an essential part of protecting yourself. It's easy to think that if you say no, you'll upset others or damage relationships. But here's the truth: if you don't take care of yourself, you'll have nothing left to offer anyone. It's not selfish to put yourself first, it's necessary. The more you say yes to things you don't want to do, or things that drain you, the more you'll find yourself feeling used. Boundaries are the antidote to this feeling. They help you protect your emotional and mental well-being, ensuring that you don't give too much of yourself away. When you start saying no, it's surprising how much clarity you gain about the relationships in your life. People who truly care about you will respect your boundaries, while those who only come around when they need something will disappear. And that's when you'll see who's really there for you, not just when you're handing them something, but when you need something in return. True relationships are based on mutual respect, not one-sided giving. And that respect has to go both ways. If you're always giving without receiving, you're setting yourself up to feel used and unappreciated. Remember, you have the right to protect your time and your energy. You don't have to be the one who is always doing the heavy lifting. The Stoics believed in the power of moderation, not extremes. They knew that generosity should come from a place of balance, not from a place of exhaustion. If you give too much without regard for your own needs, you'll lose your sense of self. But when you set boundaries, you regain control over your life. As Carl Jung said, "The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are." Part of becoming who you truly are means recognizing when you're being used and taking the necessary steps to stop it. Protect your peace and start saying no when you need to. When you do, you'll not only protect yourself, but also build healthier, more balanced relationships. In the end, it's about striking that balance between giving and protecting your own needs. It's not about being selfish, it's about ensuring that your generosity doesn't come at the cost of your own well-being. When you start saying no, you'll feel empowered. You'll see who's truly there for you, and you'll have the energy to continue helping others in a way that's sustainable. Don't let kindness turn into an obligation. Take control. Start protecting your peace, and you'll find that the relationships you have will become stronger, more authentic, and more fulfilling. 7. You could get hooked on helping. Have you ever noticed how sometimes helping others feels incredibly rewarding? There's something fulfilling about stepping in and offering support, whether it's helping a friend through a tough time, volunteering, or just being the person everyone turns to when they need a hand. But here's the problem. When helping others becomes a constant habit, it can start to feel less like an act of kindness and more like an addiction. You begin to crave that sense of being needed. You start to rely on the feeling of validation that comes from being the person who always steps up. And while it may feel good at first, it comes at a cost. You lose sight of your own needs, your own growth, and your own well-being. Helping others can easily become a way to avoid confronting your own issues. It becomes your go-to escape, and before you know it, your life revolves around meeting everyone else's needs, and yours are left behind. The tough reality is that constantly focusing on others can lead to burnout. The more you give, the more you feel like you need to keep giving. Helping others is meant to be a choice, a deliberate act of kindness. But when you get hooked on the feeling of being needed, it becomes unsustainable. It starts as an act of love and generosity, but before long, it can feel like a burden. The Stoics, especially thinkers like Seneca and Epictetus, understood that true virtue lies in balance. They didn't believe in giving endlessly without considering your own health and boundaries. In fact, they advocated for moderation in every aspect of life. When you're constantly running around helping others, you waste your own time, your own life, by not prioritizing your own needs. Helping others should be intentional and mindful, not an automatic response to the constant demand of the world around you. Think about it. When was the last time you stopped to ask yourself, what do I need right now? You may be so focused on helping others that you forget to check in with yourself. Your own goals and desires take a back seat to everyone else's. You might even feel guilty for wanting to take a break or focus on your own ambitions. But the Stoics would remind you that self-care isn't selfish. If you neglect yourself in the name of helping others, you're setting yourself up for exhaustion. A part of truly accepting yourself is recognizing that you matter too. Your needs and your growth are just as important as the needs of others. If you're constantly in help mode, you risk losing your own identity, your own direction, and your own sense of self. Helping others shouldn't mean giving up your own life and well-being. It should be a choice that aligns with your values, not a compulsion that drains you. The Stoics taught that living a virtuous life requires discipline. This isn't just about being disciplined in your work or actions. It's about being disciplined in how much you give to others and when to step back. Balance is key. When you are constantly helping others, you stop nurturing yourself. You stop focusing on your own dreams, your own health, and your own purpose. Eventually, you end up feeling exhausted, overwhelmed, and resentful because you've been giving too much of yourself and have nothing left. This is the danger of getting hooked on helping. You may start to lose sight of what matters most, your own personal growth and well-being. The danger isn't just physical or mental exhaustion, it's that you start to lose your sense of direction. The more you help, the less time you have to reflect on your own life, to think about what you want, and to focus on your own personal growth. When you're always on the go, solving everyone else's problems, you're not giving yourself the space to think about what you need and want for yourself. The Stoic practice of reflection and self-awareness is essential in avoiding this trap. The Stoics encouraged us to regularly examine our lives, our goals, and our actions. If we're constantly distracted by the needs of others, we'll never have the opportunity to reflect on our own path. This lack of self-awareness eventually leads to burnout, not just physical exhaustion, but emotional and mental depletion as well. In this cycle, you may find yourself so caught up in helping others that you become emotionally dependent on the validation you get from being needed. That feeling of being important, of being essential to someone's well-being, becomes addictive. It gives you a temporary sense of worth. But here's the problem. When you base your sense of self on what you do for others, you lose touch with who you really are. Your value becomes tied to your actions, not your intrinsic worth. You become more concerned with the approval of others than with your own self-respect. The Stoics would say that this is a dangerous path because it leads to a life controlled by external forces rather than a life of internal peace and self-mastery. True strength comes from within, not from what others think of us. It's about being able to stand firm in who you are, regardless of external validation. The key to breaking free from this cycle is to recognize that you have the power to say no. Saying no doesn't mean you don't care. It means you're choosing to protect your peace and prioritize your own well-being. It means you're taking back control of your life. When you practice moderation and set boundaries, you open up space for yourself to grow. You give yourself the time and energy you need to focus on your own goals, your own health, and your own happiness. The Stoics believed that by maintaining balance in every area of life, we can live more peaceful and purposeful lives. Ultimately, giving to others can be a beautiful and fulfilling thing. But if you get hooked on it, if you lose sight of your own needs, you risk losing yourself. Balance is the key. It's about knowing when to give, when to step back, and when to focus on your own path. Protect your peace, nurture your growth, and remember, you are just as important as the people you help. You can't pour from an empty cup, so fill yours first. Only then can you truly be the support others need without burning out. 8. You'll be misunderstood. It's interesting how something as simple as kindness can actually end up causing you trouble. Think about it. When you're kind to others, when you give without expecting anything in return, it often seems like the most natural thing in the world. After all, we're all taught from a young age that kindness is a virtue, right? But here's the thing. The more you give, the more people start to view your kindness with suspicion. That's right. The more you offer yourself to others, the more some people will start to ask, what's in it for you? And it's not because they don't appreciate what you're doing, it's because they've encountered so many people who take without giving that they start questioning anyone who actually offers something without strings attached. This might seem odd, but think about it for a second. We live in a world where many people are constantly trying to get something, whether it's attention, favors, or just someone else's time. So when someone comes along who is genuinely kind and selfless, it feels like a rare commodity. And because it's rare, it's viewed as suspicious. People begin to wonder, why is this person being so nice? What do they want from me? The truth is, kindness can feel like a potential trap to some, because they expect that there's always a hidden agenda behind it. This is where things start to get tricky. The more you give, the more you might feel like you're being misunderstood or even taken advantage of. But here's the delicate balance. You shouldn't apologize for being kind. Too often, when we feel misunderstood or suspiciously judged for our kindness, we start to second-guess ourselves. We might even pull back or try to justify our actions to others. But that's the wrong approach. True kindness isn't about seeking validation or approval from others. It's about acting in line with your own values, not because you expect something in return, but because it's the right thing to do. When you act with integrity and purpose, you don't need to apologize for being kind. If someone doubts your motives, that's on them, not you. At the same time, the Stoics also remind us that kindness shouldn't come at the cost of our own peace or well-being. Sure, being kind is important, but not at the expense of losing yourself or overextending to the point of emotional depletion. The Stoics were all about maintaining balance in life, whether it was in work, relationships, or even acts of generosity. It's easy to lose yourself in the act of helping others. You might start to think that you have to constantly give, always be the one who sacrifices, and never take anything for yourself. But that's where the danger lies. If you give too much of yourself, if you let others take advantage of your kindness without setting boundaries, you risk losing your own sense of self and your emotional strength. Who you truly are isn't someone who gives endlessly without taking care of themselves. True kindness comes from a place of wholeness and self-awareness. When you know your own worth and set healthy boundaries, you are able to give without fear of being drained. You are able to help others, but not at the cost of losing your own identity. In other words, be kind, but never to the point where your kindness makes you lose your own balance or direction in life. So while the world might view your kindness with suspicion, that doesn't mean you should stop being kind. Don't let others' perceptions dictate your actions. Instead, focus on the intention behind your actions. Kindness is meant to be something pure and selfless, not a way to gain something from others. When you give, do it because it's aligned with your values, not because you expect recognition or return. And when people doubt your motives, don't let it change who you are. Keep being genuine. It's also important to remember that some people will never understand your kindness, and that's okay. We can't change how others perceive us, and that's a critical lesson the Stoics imparted. We have no control over others, but we do have control over how we respond. If someone questions your motives, that's their issue, not yours. And if you feel like your kindness is being misunderstood, that's a sign to reflect on your own boundaries. Remember, kindness is a strength, but it's only powerful when it comes from a place of balance and integrity. Don't let others' perceptions take away the purity of your intentions. Stay true to your values, protect your peace, and know that you don't need to apologize for being the person you are.